shit. Alright, today we'll be changing out my aftermarket underdrive pulley. It was a power bond 25%. We'll be going back to stock crank pulley. And we'll also be replacing the factory oil pump with this aftermarket milling oil pump. This is a high volume version. It's got springs and seals and everything that go along with it. I would have done this whenever I did my cam and head swap, but I couldn't figure out how to get the oil pan to drop enough to be able to get to the bolt for the pickup tube. But whenever I did, a buddy of mine's GTO figured it out, and it was these two bolts that go through the transmission into the oil pan. I didn't know about those, so now I do, and we'll be able to do that today. We're going to start by removing the cover, the K&N, and disconnecting the battery, and then we're going to lift it up. We're going to drain the radiator. This was just there whenever I had an over the radiator intake that didn't fit. I had cut this section out. Well, that really hurts the efficiency of the fans pulling air through the radiator, so I just put this on here just to kind of cover that up. And do now is we're going to drain the radiator, and then once that's done, we'll drain the oil from the motor, and we'll get to use my cool new oil pan. I'm actually really excited about this one because the other one you'd have to carry like this, whereas this one you can turn on the side. It's got a little handle. It's the small things in life to make you happy. Am I right? Alright, I have a BMR skid plate here, and it uses the stock factory 13mm bolts to hold it up in there, so I will point out something. Anybody who removed their skid plate, daily drives in a GTO, check that out. I would not recommend removing your skid plate. The amount of weight you're going to save by removing your factory skid plate is so nominal, it doesn't matter. For a daily driver, I mean, if you're drag racing, that'd be something different, but I would suggest just getting one of these aluminum skid plates if you want to save some weight. That way you can save your oil pan and oil filter and a bunch of other stuff under the car that you don't want to get banged up. So that's just my advice. Yeah, we're going to have to remove the radiator. I've already removed the two hoses here. This one that connects to the overflow, I just kind of tuck out of the way over here, and the other one I take completely off. But just kind of push down that connector there, yank that out, and then we got to get this off and that clamp off. Now, what do you think the chances of me being able to pull this whole thing out all as one unit are? All right, let's give it a shot. Not so bad. So there we go. Now that we got that completely out of the way, we should be able to take this tensioner off now a lot easier. Or at least that's the theory. Yeah, look at that. Alright, so what I'm going to use is a 24 deep and just a breaker bar. Now I put it in fourth, and I put the e-brake as tight as I can get it, and let's hope we can break this loose. There we go. So that wasn't so hard. Now that it's broken loose, you really can just get your ratchet out and use that, back it all the way out. Alright, so basically that's how that goes on there. If you have the factory GM crank pulley, you're going to have these tabs, 3 of them, and you're going to use a 3 jaw puller, and you're going to put it through like this side, and it's going to grab onto these 3 tabs here, and it'll just pull it off. This one here bolts into it, and then of course you get the middle part here, and you put it down on in there, and you pull that on out. Before we pull the crank pulley off, we're going to get this water pump out of the way, and to do that, there's just 6 bolts that hold it in there, and they're 10 millimeter. So what you're going to need is, of course, a ratchet, 10 millimeter, maybe an extension just to make it a little easier, and you're going to need a 10 millimeter ratchet, or a spanner if you're one of those Australians that watch my videos. If you do that a lot, and if it annoys you like it does me, I just simply grab a glove or some gloves, and I just kind of wedge it in right here, so that way anytime you hit it, it doesn't sound like somebody just rang a gong. This is the one you don't actually take out. You leave it in there. Even whenever you're installing it, you want this one in there because of your idler pulley here. Gets in the way, and you can't actually put that bolt back in there. Alright, now that all the bolts are removed, the heater core lines are removed. We left that one in, of course, because you can't get it out with the pulley there. So now, hopefully, all you gotta do is just grab onto it and just yank it out of there. Yep, it'll do that. Yeah, and you just slowly crank it off of there. Alright, as you can see, I got the timing cover off. And I went ahead and cleaned it up a bit. Down here, you got to get all this off of there, which I haven't got it completely clean, but I'll get all this off of there before I put it back on there. And that's the RTV that you put on there whenever you break the factory seal, so that way that you don't get oil leaks down here in the corners of your oil pan. But what we'll be doing now, and I went ahead and took the throttle body off just to give me more room to work, but what we'll be doing now is we're going to get under the car, and there's geez, I forget, I think there's like 10 bolts that we have to undo. I think there's 8 on the oil pan and 2 in the transmission that we have to undo. And what that allow, we don't have to take them completely out, we just have to get them enough to where we can drop the pan about, just about that much, not a whole lot. And what that'll do is right here is a pickup tube, and there's a bolt on the bottom part of the pickup tube that we need to undo. So then we can take the 4 bolts that hold the factory oil pump on. We can take that off, which then we'll take off the cam bolts here and replace the chain, replace the guide, put the new oil pump on, and then just reverse assembly after that. Got it out of there. This little guy right here. And what kept happening though, if you use this method, is that it'll start to wrap up like so. Come on, focus. Focus. Whatever, anyway. And so when I started to do this, all I did was I just kind of moved this down, just flipped it around, and just kept undoing it. But it worked actually really well. Now what we do is that there's 4 bolts. I think they're 10 millimeter. Yeah, they're 10s. You just undo those, and then you just kind of easily or carefully work the pickup tube out of the oil pump. A useful tip is to stuff some paper towel down in there, so as you're taking those bolts out, you don't have to worry about anything falling down into the oil pan. There you go. There's the stock pump. What we got to do now is take these cam bolts off, because I'm going to be swapping out the chain, which I'm going to undo the, I'm going to put it into neutral, and then I want to put the stock bolt back in, so that way I can turn the motor over till it lines up dot to dot. And what that'll do is just make it a lot easier during a reassembly or putting the chain back on, making sure that it's still good to go. So it's in neutral. There we go, dot to dot. There's just a little dot on the top of the cam gear, or the crank gear, and there's just this little dot right here, and you just line those until they're pointing at each other and you're good to go. Now what we'll do is we'll take this off, we'll put it back in the gear just to make sure nothing moves. wiggly wiggly. It should pop free. There it goes. Here we go. What I do now is take the chain guide off and replace it. It's not completely necessary. I don't really see excessive wear on mine, but I'm just going to go ahead and replace them just because it's right there. Why not? It's really not that expensive. So now what we got to do is get the new chain. We're going to kind of soak that in oil a little bit before we put it on there. But we're just going to get the new chain, drape it over the timing gear, and just kind of put it back on there. I mean, it's really not that in depth. Alrighty. I went ahead and got the oil pan already bolted up. Got all the 2 bolts in the transmission. Got those in there. It's all torqued. These are all torqued and done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean the timing cover, swap out the crank seal, and then just kind of put some RTV down here in the corners, and then loosely put the timing cover back on, because you want to have it on there loose, and then put the crank pulley on, and that'll line everything up, and so that way everything lines up. But that's what I'm going to get to now. Alright, and now we put the timing cover on. Alrighty. Got my crank just kind of placed on there, and I'm using my pulley installer tool. Basically just a bolt, what do you call it, just a threaded rod, and a nut and 2 washers, and that's just going to pull the crank pulley on, and then we'll use the old pulley crank bolt. We'll use that to yeah, that's going on there nice, to kind of torque it down and get it snug on there. Then we'll use the new one that I bought to go on there to torque down to spec, which really is just as tight as you can get it. it's see, that's all it is. And you can get them on eBay pretty cheap. That's where I got mine, or you can just go to the store, buy the material, and there you go. It's just about there. You can see that it's almost in line. Just a little bit off from the pulleys here. So it's getting there. It's almost there. But now that this is basically seated, we can go ahead and tighten up all of those. And I think that's actually what I'll do. So I have Loctite and RTV on it right now. And I don't want that stuff to dry. And as you can see, I got the crank pulley on. It's actually pretty easy. You just tighten it down to 35, 40 foot-pounds. Then you get a breaker bar and a cheater pipe, and you go ahead and crank on it another 90 degrees. So it's really easy. As long as you have a breaker bar. I have a 24-inch breaker bar, and then I have a 36-inch cheater bar. So with that much leverage, I was able to easily crank that on. So now what we're going to do is clean the mating surface on the water pump. Install the one bolt, because this pulley, the idler pulley, will block it. If you don't, you'll never get that bolt in there. So install it prior. It's the bottom one down here, and then with the gasket on there, install it, and then I usually just put the bolt through the top one here with the gasket on there, put it on there, tighten it down, and then I line up this bottom one, and that's usually good enough. Make sure you install your cam sensor, and I went ahead and already just put my AC belt on there just to make it easier later on. And I'm not happy with losing a little bit of horsepower, but for daily driving, this is the way to go. Like I said, if it was a street warrior or a weekend warrior or full-on drag car, then yeah, I'd have left it on there, but it's neither. It's a daily driver. So yeah, I lose 5 or 10 horsepower, but that'll be alright. So let's go ahead and get that pump on there. Alright, as you can see, I skipped ahead just a bit. It was getting late last night, and recording kind of takes some time, so I went ahead and just kind of buttoned everything up. Got the water pump on, the serpentine belt, the AC belt, intake tube, throttle body, and radiator all put back on. It's really not that in depth. Just gotta take your time. Got everything torqued up. Just kind of give everything a once over here in a bit. I want to get the fluids put in for the radiator. I want to get the oil in, and the oil filter and the oil put in. Then what I'll do is I unplug the spark plugs, the spark plug wires, and I'll kind of crank the engine over for about maybe 4 or 5 seconds, and I'll let it off, and I'll probably do that 3 times. I put in all the spark plug wires and then start it up. And I'll do that because what it is it's priming the system, it's priming the oil pump, and the filter and everything, making sure everything is getting oil before I actually turn it on. So that's the only reason why I'll be doing that. But in order to burp the radiator, all I'm going to do is just jack the car up while it's running, and that's a real simple process. It'll just kind of burp itself. And yeah, that's really it. Swap complete, and I'll let y'all see if it's running or dying. Hopefully it's running. I'd really hate to have done all this to have taken out a working good part just to put in one that doesn't. But we'll get this all set up and ready to go. Alrighty. It's complete. It runs great. I think my problem with the idling for too long while sitting at like a stoplight or something has been fixed with the stock pulley. I pull up, I let it sit there in the sun for probably about 10 minutes, and it never started idling weird or bucking or stalling, so I guess it was the power bond that was doing that. It drives great.
But the only side note that I did, the only thing that you'd want to do with this high volume oil pump is you want to fill your oil just a little, about this much over the recommended fill line. About a half a quart to a quart more oil, so about 6.5 to 7 quarts of oil total. It's been known to take too much oil out of the oil pan, and before the oil completely drains back down into it, it runs dry. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what I've been told. So the remedy to that would just be to fill it up about half a quart to a quart over what the recommended level is. You should be fine. But other than that, it's pretty much done. Please subscribe. Thank you.